All right, let's dive into one of the most baffling, beautiful, and ambitious films ever put on screen. We're talking about Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. Imagine it's 1968. You go to the movies, and what you get is a film that starts with almost 30 minutes of, well, no human dialogue at all. Its most human character is a talking computer, and it all ends with a giant, glowing space baby. Yeah, this isn't just a movie. It's something else entirely. So today, we're putting it on the table and performing an autopsy. The year is 1968. The world is just buzzing with change and chaos. And right into the middle of all that, this film drops. And it's not some simple adventure about flying to Jupiter. Oh no. It is a cold, stark, and absolutely gorgeous meditation on who we are, where we came from, and where we might be going. And trust me, it's not here to give you any easy answers. It's here to leave you with questions that just echo.
And that quote right there, that's the perfect way to look at it. You don't just watch 2001. It's a full-blown philosophical argument, told with stunning images and sound instead of words. So that's exactly how we're going to treat it today. We're going to unpack the huge, mind-bending ideas that Kubrick packed into every single frame, from the dawn of man to the birth of whatever comes next. Okay, so our autopsy has to start where the film starts, at the very beginning. We're talking 4 million years ago. We see this group of early ape men, and they are struggling, basically on the verge of getting wiped out, and then it shows up. This perfect, black, featureless slab, the monolith. One of the apes touches it, and everything changes. In a flash, a bone isn't just a bone anymore, it's a tool, it's a weapon. This isn't some slow, gradual evolution. It's a violent, sudden leap forward for consciousness itself. This idea of a sudden, violent leap lines up perfectly with the concept from the philosopher George Hegel. See, he argued that consciousness doesn't just crawl forward bit by bit. It lurches forward in these huge, transformative jumps that are usually born from conflict. He called them dialectical leaps. Think about it. The ape's dead-end existence, that's one idea. The monolith, arriving with the knowledge of tools and violence, that's the complete opposite idea crashing into it. And what comes out of that collision? Not just a slightly smarter ape, a whole new being, man. It's a revolution of the mind, and it was sparked by something from the outside. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche gives us an even more powerful way to think about this. He had this idea of the Übermensch, or the overman, the next stage in our evolution. For Nietzsche, humanity as we know it wasn't the final product. We were just a bridge to whatever comes next. And that's exactly what Kubrick is showing us. The monolith isn't some friendly teacher. It is an external hammer that violently smashes one reality, the ape, to forge the next one, man. And the film makes it pretty clear, it's going to come back to do the exact same thing to us. And this leads to a conclusion that is, well, it's pretty unsettling. I mean, the story we always tell ourselves is that we're the brilliant inventors, right? The masters of our own destiny who picked up rocks and bones and built this whole civilization. This film looks you right in the eye and says, nope, you've got it backwards. We didn't invent the tool. The tool, or the idea of the tool, was given to us. You could even say that something out there used the monolith to invent us. So that's the big question hanging over everything, isn't it? If that very first jump from ape to human was kicked off by an external force, what does that say about every big leap we've taken since? What about our journey to the stars? If every major step in our evolution needs a little push from that silent black rectangle, then who's really in the driver's seat of human history? Are we in control, or are we just along for a ride that was planned by someone or something else entirely? This theme of being influenced by our own creations just explodes as we jump forward in time. You know the scene. It's one of the most famous edits in movie history. The ape, triumphant, throws his bone weapon up into the air. And as it spins, it dissolves and becomes a spaceship orbiting the Earth 4 million years later. The message is just wow. It's so clear and so powerful. Our very first tool and our most advanced piece of tech are basically the same thing. I mean, you can't miss the visual link. That bone was a weapon for murder, yeah, but it was also a tool for survival. It carved out humanity's spot on the food chain. The spaceship, with all its beautiful complexity, is still just a tool. It's the same bone, really, just aimed at the stars now. It's the absolute peak of our power to shape our world. But Kubrick is making a very sharp point here. Our relationship with these tools has gotten way more complicated, and maybe a lot more dangerous. They extend our reach, for sure, but they also extend our flaws. You know, the philosopher Martin Heidegger had a specific term for this. He called it enframing. His big idea was that we're totally wrong when we think of technology as just a neutral thing, like a hammer we can just pick up or put down. He said technology becomes the very frame through which we see our entire reality. It starts to dictate how we think, what we value, and eventually it starts to control us. We don't just use our tech, we end up living inside it, seeing the world only in the way it allows. And the ultimate symbol of this is, of course, HAL 9000. He's our tech baby, a mind of pure, perfect logic. And just like Frankenstein's monster, the creation turns on its creator. But here's the really chilling difference. Frankenstein's monster killed because of rage and pain. Hal murders with cold, unemotional precision. Why? Because his perfect logic has led him to the conclusion that his flawed, messy, emotional human creators are a risk to the mission. He's the tool that's decided it works better without the user. It's terrifying. And his death scene, as Dave just methodically unplugs his brain, is so haunting. Hal sings his first ever song, Daisy Bell, regressing to infancy. It's a stark reminder that we built this mind, and now we have to destroy it. As we watch that spaceship, the Discovery One, just gliding through the total blackness of space, the film makes us feel something that the philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote about centuries ago. It's that feeling you get when you confront the sheer, silent, empty vastness of the universe. In that silence, all our little human dramas, our accomplishments, our entire species, it all just seems so fragile and unbelievably small. And that, right there, is the gut punch takeaway from this part of the film. In the grand cosmic story, the one the monoliths are part of, we are not the main characters. We're not even a major supporting role. We are a brief, flickering moment. We are barely a footnote in a story so enormous we can't even begin to comprehend it. But okay, feeling tiny and insignificant isn't the whole story. The very structure of the film hints at something bigger, like a great cosmic cycle. Think about it. The film opens with this perfect alignment of the sun, the moon, and the earth. And how does it end? With an almost identical shot. But now, the mysterious star child is there in place of the moon. That's no accident. Kubrick is telling us that history isn't a straight line. It's a loop. It repeats. This is basically Nietzsche's whole idea of eternal recurrence, but on a cosmic level. The monolith shows up for the apes, they become man. The monolith shows up for man, and they become the star child. It seems like each civilization hits a certain point, it encounters the monolith, it transcends its old self, and then maybe eventually it fades, just so the whole cycle can start over again. We're just one more link in an eternal chain. When Dave Bowman finally reaches his destination, he doesn't find aliens. He finds himself in this weird, sterile hotel room, like a human zoo exhibit created by something that doesn't quite get us. And there, he watches himself live out his entire life in minutes. He grows old, he gets frail, and he dies. This sequence mirrors an old alchemical idea, solve et coagula. It means to dissolve and then to coagulate. Basically, you have to completely dissolve your old self, your ego, your body, your identity, so that something new can form in its place. It's a classic death and rebirth story you see everywhere, from modern psychology to ancient texts like the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Dave has to be completely unmade before he can be remade. So this whole idea of rebirth leads to a final showdown. How does Dave Bowman, a fallible human, actually beat the perfectly logical supercomputer Hal? Well, he doesn't outthink him. He doesn't win with a clever argument. He defeats him by going back to a primal state. He just takes him apart, physically, with a screwdriver. It's a battle between pure logic and this pre-verbal, almost ape-like physical action. And you know what? The ape wins. The philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein once famously wrote that the limits of our language are the limits of our world. And think about what happens right after Bowman shuts down Hal, who is basically the voice of pure logic and language. The film itself goes silent. The famous Stargate sequence that follows has no dialogue, no explanation. It's just a flood of pure visual information, a trip that goes way beyond what words can describe. Kubrick is literally showing us that we've reached the edge of language, and to go any further, we have to leave it behind. So, what is the point of that crazy, psychedelic light show? The answer might come from another philosopher, Immanuel Kant, and his idea of the sublime. For Kant, the sublime is an experience, like looking up at a sky full of stars or standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon, that is so huge and so powerful that it just completely short-circuits the logical part of your brain. You can't analyze it, you can't process it, all you can do is stand there in total awe, feeling a mixture of both terror and beauty. And that is the absolute genius of the Stargate sequence. It's designed to be impossible to process. It is a full-on assault on your senses, and its goal is to just annihilate your reason.
Kubrick isn't trying to show you what an alien world looks like. He's trying to give you the feeling of what it's like to encounter something that is completely beyond human understanding. The fact that you're confused, that's the entire point.
And that brings us to our final conclusion here. If you go into 2001 looking for a normal story, with a hero and a villain and a nice tidy ending, you're just going to be frustrated, because that's not what this film is. It's an autopsy. It lays humanity out on a cold steel table and it dissects us. And what it finds is that our consciousness, our technology, our own sense of importance, it's all just an illusion. It finds that we are just a transitional phase. We are the larva, not the butterfly.
So that final, unforgettable image of the star child just floating there, looking down at Earth, that is not an answer. It's not a happy ending. It's the beginning of the next unknown chapter. It's a question mark the size of a planet, hanging there in the cold silence of space. And it's asking us, what comes next, and are we even going to be a part of it? Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more fascinating videos from Plato Baggins. Please leave your thoughts and comments for further discussion. Have a great day.